Welcome to today's Proven Learning Series session on understanding work orders and budgets. In this session, we'll review the basics of the Proven Jobs work orders and budgeting functionality. Work orders facilitate the creation of the job's estimated revenue and budget projections, leveraging the gross margin percent as a key metric. This functionality aids in the financial planning and the strategic decision making for your jobs. Before we begin today's session, let's review a few housekeeping items. All attendees have been muted during today's session to cut down on any background noise. Your videos are automatically turned off to avoid any distractions. This session's recording will be available via our PSA Help Library in addition to our company's YouTube channel. Any questions that you have during today's session can be directed to our PSA support team, which can be reached at support@canamsys.com. Our agenda for today will include reviewing the available work order role security permissions, how to edit and budget work orders created from an estimate import, how to manually create work orders for budgetary purposes, and finally, how to establish your estimated revenue based on estimated costs. Administrators or users that have the security permissions to edit role security will need to navigate to the main menu settings, roles, selecting the edit button next to the applicable role. Once within the role, select Jobs, scroll down and select Work Orders. There are 11 available security permissions. Change work order number will allow the user to edit the work order number generated by the system. Best practice recommendation when editing the work order number field is to add the prefix or a suffix to the system generated number to further identify the work order. Close will allow the user to close the work order, which will prevent the work order from being edited any further. Convert allows the user to convert a work order from an estimated revenue or estimated cost to an invoice or voucher and reflects as an actual revenue or cost on the job's financial. Create allows the user to create new work orders. Delete allows the user to delete existing work orders. Edit allows the user to edit existing work orders. Recover allows the user to recover deleted work orders. Reopen allows the user to reopen closed work orders. Please note, this security permission is only applicable to our QuickBooks integration and standalone PSA Proven Jobs clients. Revision. If the Use Revision Tracking option is enabled in your database company setting, this allows the user to review and capture revisions to the job's estimated revenue. When importing from an estimate, the system will automatically capture the change in the job's estimated revenue for you. However, if the work order is manually edited, the user must select the Save Work Order Modification as Revision option from the Revisions menu in the Jobs Work Order tab. View allows the user to view the job's work orders. However, it will hide the work order financials. View Financials allows the user to view the job's work order financials. Users that will be budgeting work orders will need at the very least to create, edit, view, and view financial security permissions. Remember, if any changes are made to the role security permissions, please make sure to navigate to the top and click the blue Save button. Please note, changes made to the role security permissions can take at least 5 minutes to update and reflect in the user's account. We will now move to a demo Proven Jobs database to review work orders created from an estimate import. For today's session, I've already imported an estimate from Xactimate. However, estimate imports can be done from either Xactimate, or Symbility. From the job file, we will navigate to the Work Orders tab. Here, we will have the opportunity to manipulate and budget the work orders. The Job Work Orders tab is broken into 3 specific sections. The top section displays all of the job's created work orders. The middle section displays the individual line items within the selected work order, and the bottom selection on the left displays the total price, also referred as the estimated revenue and cost, for all job work orders. And on the right-hand side bottom displays the total estimated revenue and cost for just the selected work order. Within the middle and bottom sections, the system will display a yellow and blue line. The blue line, or price, represents the amount the company is to be paid for an individual line item within the selected work order, and in the bottom section, the overall agreed upon estimated price that was imported or manually created. The yellow line represents the amount the company has budgeted in cost to pay vendors for materials, sub-trades or internal staff for labor, and other expenses. The actively selected work order will be highlighted in blue in the top selection. To select a different work order, simply click on the desired work order. Once the applicable work order is highlighted in blue, users can then utilize the top menu options to select, create, edit, convert, open, close, schedule, print, and revision. The first menu item we will review is the Edit menu, Change Gross Margin. This option allows the user the ability to update the desired gross margin for the entire imported estimate, including all work orders and individual line items. For example, if your company would like to see a 40% gross margin on jobs with a job type of reconstruction, meaning we are budgeting to spend and cost 60% of the job's estimated revenue, we'll enter the 40 into the margin field and click the Save button. If needed, the gross margin percent can be manipulated on the selected work orders by updating the margin field in the bottom section right-hand corner, or the gross margin can also be manipulated on an individual line item basis by clicking into the line item, scrolling down below the blue price box, and entering in the desired margin on the specific or on the individual line item within the selected work order. It will affect and adjust the overall job margin. Another helpful menu option is Merge. This option will allow the user the ability to merge multiple work orders into a singular work order. For example, if the drywall crew is also handling the painting, we could merge the paint work order and the drywall work order and budget accordingly. To merge one work order or more than one work orders together, in the top section, select the checkbox to the left of the applicable work order. Navigate to the Edit menu, select Merge. The system will present you with a pop-up window with a drop-down to select the work order you want to merge the line items into. In this case, we have the paint work order or the drywall work order that we can merge into. In this particular example, I'm going to go ahead and merge into the drywall work order and select the merge button. In the instances that we need to budget the material and labor within a work order independently of one another, the user can use the split material option. This option allows the user to select material-only line items and either move them into a newly created work order containing material only, or the user can transfer the material line items into another work order that is already created. This option can also be useful in situations where we are utilizing a subtrade vendor to complete some of the work. However, your company is purchasing and supplying the material. To use this option, in the top section, check the checkbox to the left of the applicable work order. Navigate to the Edit menu, select Split Material. The user will be prompted with a series of checkboxes in the middle section identifying which line items we want to split the material from. If we want to select all of the line items within the work order, we're going to check the checkbox in the header. And over on the right-hand side, we have the ability to create a new work order for our material only, or select an existing work order. In our example, I'm going to go ahead and select and create a new work order for my material only, selecting the Save button over on the left-hand side. Once I save, we're going to see a new work order created for the material only, and that is the top work order that is highlighted in blue with the category of drywall. You'll notice that in the bottom here on the right hand side that this work order is only reflecting a material cost and revenue. If this work order had any additional expenses outside or revenue outside of material, we would see the labor and expense column populate with a dollar amount. Now looking back here at the top section of the work order screen, we'll notice that we have two drywall work orders. Again, the one that's highlighted is the one that we just created containing just the material, and the original work order here for drywall. Now looking at the financials in the lower right hand corner, there is no material in this particular work order, but we do see labor. Now for visual perspective or visual cues, you can modify the work order number to include a job suffix. We can also use the note field to provide identification purposes. And we can make that same change on the original work order, the one referencing only the material. Again, clicking into the work order number fields. Or making a note in the note field. Once we have the material split from the labor, we can also assign this work order to the handling subtrade. So looking back on to just the work order for labor, clicking on it to select, I'm going to go ahead and move over, staying on the blue highlight, to the subtrade. Within here, it's going to pop open an action window, allowing me to select the subtrade that will be assigned to this particular work order. And clicking the Save button. we'll see that the subtrade vendor name is added to the blue highlighted area for ease of identification. If I also want to update the agreed amount price that I've negotiated with the subtrade vendor, I can easily select the orange subtrade agreed quote button for the selected work order and enter in the agreed price. So looking at this work order originally, just for labor alone, with a 40.78% margin, I can spend up to $4,030.90 to stay within that budgeted number. However, if I try to make a little bit better of a margin here, I can say that we agreed to the subtrade for $3,500 and apply. The system will ask us, are we sure we want to add this agreed quote? We'll receive the banner at the top indicating confirmation. And you'll also see that a line item is added to the body of the work order itself, indicating that adjustment in cost. You'll also notice with that adjustment, it is bringing our margin up. So it's a quick way to get that agreed number into the work order, either for initial budgetary purposes or once you have a final agreed with the subtrade, going in and entering that number. If at any point you need to reverse what you've done, you can simply check on the checkbox next to the subtrade agreed quote and click your orange remove button, and that will return the work order back to its previous state. And we're going to go ahead and save. We're going to now next move on to our next topic, which is budgeting from a manual work order. In this particular instance, if we're not creating the work orders from an estimate import, the user can manually create a work order or multiple work orders to establish the estimated revenue and budget for the job. I'll navigate to another example job in our demo database. Going into our Pam Beasley job, clicking the Edit button to open. Again, navigating to the Work Orders tab. You'll see that the system has automatically created that first work order for me at job creation. If you don't see a work order here, you could simply select the Create menu to create an additional work order. Once the work order is populating, we can select the work order again by making that selection. Once we have our desired selection, we're going to go ahead and click our orange Add button to add a line item to the work order detail. Clicking into the empty description box opens up the line item description, allowing me to enter Now this is very generic. I can do a lump sum to calculate my estimated revenue and budget my margin. So in this particular case, if I know that we have 5,000 in material and 10,000 in labor, and we have some other ancillary expenses, fees, permits, I can add them to each of the broken out types, material, labor, or expense. You'll notice as I am entering information into the individual boxes, the system is calculating the budgeted cost based upon the margin that I have entered here. On this particular line item, if I want to adjust the margin, I can certainly do that, and then tabbing out of the field, and the system will adjust the calculations for that estimated cost or budget. So in this particular case, we have a estimated revenue of $15,100, and at a 40% margin, I have $9,060 to spend in costs in order to stay within budget. Once I have entered my information, making sure coming back over here to my orange Save button to save the information that I've entered. You can also create work orders for a specific category, just like if we would have imported it from Xactimate. So I'm going to click into my other work order. And if I want to be specific, I can add my line item to my work order. And this could be my drywall. And in this particular case, if we're charging $1,000 for the material for drywall and $1,000 in labor, again, the system will do that calculation for me. I can adjust my margin accordingly and I can save. Now you'll notice that there's additional fields here that we can modify if we need to. You can certainly adjust the quantity, which would affect the unit price, and do the calculation. You can select the unit, and you can select the hours. Typically, the hours would be filled from the Xactimate import. It's just a visual. It's not taking into consideration any calculation, what we're seeing here on the screen, but visually, if we printed the work order, it would show us how many hours that we have allotted for this particular line item. I'm going to go ahead and save my line item. And I can either add another line item to this particular work order, or I can add or create another work order. The work order is already selected for me. Going down into the add, clicking into the empty description field, and adding my description. So if this is my paint, again, entering my material, my labor, and I can save. Now you can also, if you don't want to do the estimate import and we're doing the manual, you can certainly print a recap by category from your Xactimate and recreate those categories and lump sums like we're doing here manually on the screen. If, for instance, if we need to work backwards, and this would be our third topic for today, the budgeting based on costs. If I know what my costs are, but I'm not necessarily sure what my estimated revenue should be or what I should be charging for that service, I can use the work order to help me calculate that price that I should charge the customer client. So in this particular instance, I'm going to go ahead and select another work order by selecting the Create button. I'm going to click my Add button, clicking again into the description field. I can enter my description. So let's say this is, we're doing windows. Now the system will always default for the blue, which is our estimated revenue or price. But I can, if I scroll down here just a little bit on the screen, you'll notice underneath the yellow cost box, we have the ability to change the based on. So I'm going to go ahead and change it to cost. You'll notice that there was a slight gray to the fields on the material side, and it opens up the, I'm sorry, not the material side, but the price side. It opens up the yellow side, allowing me to enter in the cost or expected costs. So in this case, for windows, I'm expecting to spend $2,000 in material, and I want to charge $500 in labor. And if I set my desired margin, again setting to 40, you'll see that the system is calculating on the blue revenue side. So it's working in the opposite direction now, me entering the cost and the system calculating the desired estimated revenue or price based upon the margin that I've selected. And I can go ahead and hit my Save button. We can also isolate the revenue from the costs. So if we need to enter separate line items, we can certainly do that. So for example, if I wanted to add just revenue, I'm going to add another line item, click into the description field, and I'm just going to say that I want to recognize a supplement, and we are going to charge an additional $1,000, or maybe this is an upgrade in material. I'm going to add an additional $1,000 of material that we're charging. Tabbing out of the field, again, the system's going to do the calculation, but in this case, I don't want to have a cost. In this particular case, I can set my margin to 100%, again, tabbing out, and you'll notice that the yellow cost has been removed. So it's purely showing just an estimated revenue of $1,000. And I'm going to go ahead and save. If I went ahead and purchased that material, I can add another line item. And again, this is maybe my material purchased. The system again will default to the blue price. If I want to work in the yellow cost, I will switch the based on to cost, and I will be able to then enter my dollar amount. So let's say we had $500 in material costs. Tabbing out, the system again is going to calculate the estimated revenue based upon my material cost and my margin. If I do not want the system to calculate that estimated revenue, I can go ahead and click the calculate button. At the top of the screen, the system will ask me, are you sure you don't want to assign a margin? And I'll go ahead and click the OK button. You'll notice that it removes the estimated revenue from the line item. And I'm going to go ahead and save. So in this example, it allowed me to isolate and enter just a line item for an estimated revenue without any estimated costs, or the reverse, entering a line item for just the estimated cost, but not having the system calculate an estimated revenue based upon that cost. This dual functionality provides a flexibility approach to the financial modeling, accommodating user preferences and streamlining the estimation process for both price and cost based upon the input parameters. This does conclude our Proven Learning Series session on understanding work orders and budgets in proven jobs. If you have any questions or concerns, please direct them to our support team at support@canamsys.com. Thank you.